Today on the show, we've got a double feature with our Snowpiercer movie review and White Llama comic review. But before we get started, this episode is brought to you by Space Wolf Limited.
Space Wolf Limited, what's that?
Well, Space Wolf Limited makes these beautiful carved wooden posters. They're
Boob hole window.
There's a keyhole. Is that
boobs?
Is this better? Is this better?
Oh my gosh, I never noticed that amazing wood carved poster.
Here it is, folks. These wood carved posters only come in limited runs of 50 each. That's it. So when they're gone, they're gone. So you better get them quick. Last month, they released the first of their Game of Thrones series. They did a Stark poster, and it's totally sold out. And now the Lannister one is the next one up. I can't wait to see what their third one is. I'm so excited. Is it Baratheon? Is it Targaryen? I don't know, but we'll find out.
I've got something made of wood for you.
Gross. Anyways. And if you're not a Game of Thrones fan, they have lots of other really cool posters. Personally, as you guys may or may not know, I'm a big H.P. Lovecraft fan, so we have an awesome Cthulhu one this time around. I'm so excited for it. So make sure to check out spacewolflimited.com and use promo code CBG19 for $50 off. For limited time only, though. For today's new movie review, we're going to be talking about Snowpiercer. A lot of you may or may not have heard about it. It's got a really weird limited release, but we'll get into the politics of that later. But it is a film that is based on a French graphic novel. Actually, it just got published in English, so you can check it out. But from what I've read, the graphic novel and the movie do have a lot of departures from one another, which is fine. But yeah, there's a lot to talk about with this film. It is a very interesting film for a lot of different reasons, so let's just get into it right now. Snowpiercer. Here's the premise. In the future, global warming gets so bad that scientists have to develop this cooling agent that they shoot up into the atmosphere. But the experiment goes terribly wrong and the planet is plunged into a super ice age. The only people who can survive are passengers on this globe-trotting train called the Snowpiercer that circumnavigates the Earth once a year. What is fascinating is that the passengers on the train create what is essentially a microcosm of today's societal hierarchy, with a small number of elite people living in luxury at the front of the train and a large number of people living in stark poverty at the back of the train. Conflicts arise when the people running the train periodically come to the back car to take children from the impoverished passengers for reasons unknown, sparking off an entire revolution where Chris Evans' character leads a violent mob car by car towards the front of the train. There's a kindergarten indoctrination car, a food processing car, a sauna car, a nightclub car, and more. It's super nuts. This film is rife with metaphor. There are a lot of very interesting and thought-provoking things being asked by this movie. I feel like in 1999, there was all these really neat movies coming out about questioning our reality. Things like Fight Club, The Matrix, Dark City, and then 9/11 happened, and those type of movies stopped coming out. But now, I see this type of movie creeping back to the surface, and Snowpiercer is definitely one of these type of movies. And I really hope that this theme reemerges, and we can get some more movies asking these important philosophical questions. Minor warning, though. Sometimes you just have to go with the movie despite the weirdness. For example, I feel like Chris Evans was maybe not the best casting because he's become synonymous with Captain America in our minds. He's just so iconic. And then seeing him brutally slaughter people in this movie kind of freaked me out and made me feel uncomfortable. But that might just be a personal problem, and it might not be relevant in 10 years.
I had never seen anything like that.
Anyway, the plot and the tone of this movie are far from perfect, but I feel like the meaning and the relevancy of what it's trying to say is more important. I enjoyed what the director was trying to do, and I'm sure that this movie will spark lots of conversations and get a lot of people thinking about some important questions. Now, I know a lot of you out there have not seen Snowpiercer because it had a super limited theatrical release due to a director versus studio conflict. It was unfairly punished, but fortunately, It was recently released on video on demand, so now you can watch it no matter what city you live in, so you don't have an excuse. Check it out. To wrap it up, Snowpiercer is not a normal narrative movie that you normally see. It's more of an idea movie, but it's an important idea that you should go watch. And for my comic book review today, we're going to be talking about White Llama, written by Jodorowsky and illustrated by George Best, and it came out from Humanoids Press, and it's so awesome. It's a beautiful hardcover. So excited.
What is this thing that you're talking about?
Well, White Llama takes place in late 19th century Tibet, and the Grand Lama has this vision of all this trouble coming to his country, so he decides to die and be reincarnated in order to save his country, okay? So he is reincarnated in the body of Gabriel, who is an orphan of white explorers, and Gabriel must walk the path of enlightenment in order to save his country from both itself and outside invaders.
So besides all that weirdo mumbo jumbo you said, why should a normal person read it?
One of my main reasons that I really like this is the theme. Jodorowsky writes a lot about the idea of having to master oneself in order to save others, which I think is a very relevant and important theme that most people don't really realize. You can't help other people until you help yourself. You gotta get your own shit on lockdown before you can do anything, which is, an important thing to know. Also, I love the perspective on it, okay? This whole thing is from the perspective of the Tibetans, and you see, this Christian priest come in and trying to be like, oh, you guys are a bunch of savages, and then you have the British coming in trying to change them, and then, as I said, eventually the Chinese are gonna try to come in too, and I love that perspective, but also, it also talks about, political and religious corruption in Tibet and how those two, things are helping each other to the detriment of all the people, which is another thing that I think is important and a societal theme that a lot of us can relate to. Another reason why this book is so worth picking up is the artwork in it. It is just so beautiful. I really got sucked into this artwork. Oh my gosh, the coloring is so good, all the characters are so good, all the environments are so amazing. It's really something. Just art alone, it's totally worth picking up for. And in fact, the artist, George Best, he has gone to Tibet several times. He went there, he fell in love with the place, he had this life-changing experience, and that's part of the reason that he worked with Jodorowsky on it, because he loves Tibet so much that he wanted to draw it. And you can tell that this asshole went to Tibet to get reference, okay? He didn't just look it up on the internet because it was 1987 and they didn't have the internet, okay? And it shows that the love that these two men had for this story really shined through.
Well, you haven't given me a single reason why a hot teen robot should read this comic book.
All right, well, if you need some hot teen robot reasons, there's also a Yeti in it. There are black sorcerers who sacrifice children in order to gain immortality.
Okay.
You have otherworldly scorpions attacking villages.
Okay.
You have trips through the astral plane. You get to meet the Lord of Cats, Lin Fa. You have flying magicians who have these crazy premonitions. There's also, just because the story sounds very straightforward, but it's still Jodorowsky, so there's still a fuck ton of weirdness in there. So it's a lot of fun. It's so good that I read it all in one day, and I couldn't put it down. I got sucked into it, and I had to read it all in one day. It was so good, and you can order it right now on humanoids.com. And you can also look for it in some of your comic book stores, but I think the humanoids.com is a good place to start though. They got free shipping in the US, and when you buy a copy, you also receive a free digital copy. So you can look at it on your computer, your iPad, all that sort of good stuff. So check it out, White Llama, can't recommend it enough. So good. So that's it for today. Thanks for watching. Be sure to like this video, subscribe to my channel, and follow me on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and Tumblr. And I feel like one of the biggest themes is all about cycles of humanity, about how humans come together to build a society, to build this engine that we are all riding for better for worse, and how it eventually all falls apart. It asks the question, will stopping this infernal machine and getting off this ride lead to our collective demise, or will we survive and start again? And I really like that the director doesn't give you any easy answers and leaves you to draw your own conclusions, making you think about these questions long after the end credits roll. When I was watching this movie, I was really reminded of a short story I once read called The Ones Who Walk Away from Omelas by Ursula Le Guin. And you should definitely check this out if you like the ideas and questions presented in Snowpiercer. Questions about the one or the many, and can there be light without darkness? It's a short story, not a big deal. You can Google it and read it on a PDF.